Welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the It's Always About Us, Isn't It? edition. Today is episode 287, how the first diving suit for cockroaches may save human lives, and another first, ancient human DNA recovered from cave paintings. My friends, the last time we spoke about a creature that gives most of us the absolute ick was way back in May, during episode 277. And after all was said and done, you know what? Some of that ick didn't go away, but it was so aptly paired with a new revelation. That some cockroaches, they just can't quit each other. Indeed, we learned of a species called Salginea taiwanensis, a wood-feeding cockroach, whose commitment ceremony goes above and beyond anything seen or heard of on this show. Once an adult winged pair locks eyes within a soggy tree stump, their courtship begins, and it ends with mutual cannibalism. Oh yes, if you haven't had a listen to episode 277, that may come as a shock. But that's not nearly as shocking as how much detail I provide about the entire process. Girl, I made a flowchart with numbered steps. Anyway, one step includes both the male and female taking turns chewing off each other's wings, because it's speculated that this shows they are committed to settling down in that soggy log to have tiny roaches of their own. Today, in the first half of the show, the love affair continues, but not in the way you think. This is all about how the affection some humans have for roaches, and how in the not-too-distant future these six-legged bugs may join our four-legged friends during search and rescue operations. We will hop on a plane to NTU Singapore's School of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, and there we will join a small group of professors and research fellows who looked at a roach and said, we can save lives with that. Indeed, they took what's called cyborg insects to the next level. Yes, cyborgs are very much real. Living insects, as we speak, are being fitted with electronic controllers that remotely guide their movement. And you may be asking, Jill, are you okay? Have you finally lost it? Are you making shit up because after 6 years of doing this show you have nothing new to talk about? Well, I could respond to that with a resounding no. This is completely real. I will run through the tiny equipment and how that tiny equipment can turn something like a roach into a first responder. We will look at a recent case where still autonomous but occasionally remote-controlled roaches saved lives during a natural disaster on land. And we will join our team, who also said, what about natural disasters that leave people underwater? We will be in awe at the new tiny equipment they developed, which allows roaches to survive for hours in floodwaters. We will learn the ingenious way it all works, because, surprise, roaches don't have lungs. So you have to get creative when it comes to diving suits for them. We will also answer the question, why in the holy fuck are we sending roaches to save people to begin with? Because I know you're asking. The answer will leave you saying, yeah, I totally prefer one of these over those robot dogs. Then after the break, something else that seems impossible, but here we are. According to the press release from Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, you need to sit down. Researchers have successfully recovered ancient mitochondrial and nuclear human DNA from both pigmented and unpigmented cave wall surfaces, which means scientists have found a way to find out who exactly made cave paintings. We will rip open this interdisciplinary study from an international team that focused on Paleolithic rock art in Spain and Portugal. We will swab what they swabbed. We will use the cutting-edge DNA technology that they used. We will look upon the results and be absolutely flabbergasted that yes, ancient human DNA can survive for thousands of years on cave walls, allowing for new ways to study prehistoric human activity. So, who made these glorious pictures? Throw all your caveman stereotypes out the window, hint, hint. We will get to it. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my talented business goose. To begin, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine yourself in the hellscape I'm about to describe. It's currently March 28th, 2025. And as you glance down at your phone, you see it's 12:50 p.m. local time. And so far, it's been like any other Friday. And this is about the time you start to fantasize about the weekend and all of its possibilities and how you probably won't do any of it because you're so goddamn tired and just want to see if there's anything new on Netflix. Unfortunately, within the next 60 seconds, everything is going to change. And there won't be any Netflix, Wi-Fi, or even power to turn on a light. A devastating 7.7 magnitude earthquake has just been unleashed, and the several floors above you have rained down in a concrete avalanche. The good news is that you've gained consciousness. The bad news is that you don't know for how long you are under, because all around you are the black abstract shapes of rubble blocking out most of the light. That is, if it's still the afternoon. You're alone, and upon impact, you are separated from your phone, which is probably shattered to pieces anyway. I ask, do you think anyone's coming to help? Okay, you can open your eyes, and I am so sorry I put you through all that, which was a real-life clusterfuck of a day for hundreds of thousands of people. I'm talking about last year's earthquake, whose epicenter tragically chose the city of Mandalay, the second largest city in Myanmar. And for my geographically challenged Americans who are like, Christ, so many things happened last year, I kind of remember. Can you tell me where this was exactly? If you said that, don't worry, I understand, and I've got you. Please, everyone, imagine China. Thank you. Under China, draw a peninsula. Fantastic. That peninsula is made up of 5 countries, and if we point to it and move clockwise, we have Myanmar, or Burma, at 12-ish, then Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia at 6-ish, and then Thailand at 9. Now, 2 facts about Mandalay that when you combine them with an earthquake collide to create a disaster of epic proportions. 1, it's located dead center of Myanmar. And 2, it sits atop one of the 4 tectonic plates that the entire country finds itself atop, aka the Saiging Fault. A massive 1,400-kilometer, 870-mile crack in the Earth's crust, sandwiched between 2 other tectonic plates, the Burma microplate and the Sunda plate. When the Saiging Fault decided to shift, the power released was a 7.7 on the Richter scale, roughly the equivalent of 5 megatons of TNT, which is hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. In seconds, a 286-mile tear opened, and in some places the ground shifted horizontally by several meters. Everything on top of this and around this didn't stand a chance. According to news reports, the earthquake directly killed up to 5,300 people in Myanmar and 103 in Thailand, while 1 person died from shock in Vietnam. Hundreds of homes were also damaged in Yunnan, China, to the north, while more than 400 apartments were affected in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, located on the southeast coastline of the peninsula. Over 11,000 people were in various states of injury, and most of them were buried alive, under their workplace, mosque, or apartment complex. Where does a search and rescue team even begin? And do they have enough volunteers to cope with this scale? Well, my friends, if you close your eyes and place yourself back at the scene from before, I am beyond thrilled to tell you you're in luck. Between the cracks of debris, a team of Madagascar hissing cockroaches have just found their way to you. And at this point you may be asking, Jill, how could you be thrilled? This is already a horror movie. Why did you add roaches? Well, I am so glad you asked. A few fun facts about the Madagascar hissing cockroach. 1, they got that name thanks to the way they communicate with each other, by blowing air through their breathing holes, or spiracles. And please, put a pin in that. It is damn important, and we will get back to breathing holes. 2, unlike most bugs that leave their eggs out and exposed to the environment, females carry their egg cases inside their bodies until nymphs are ready to emerge. So yes, Madagascar hissing roaches, they give birth to live young roaches, and I will not be sharing any photos of that. You're welcome. 3, they cannot bite, cannot fly, can live up to 5 years, and are gentle giants at up to 4 inches in length. When you combine these characteristics, you get number 4. Professor Hirotaka Sato, from the School of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at NTU Singapore. Professor Sato has been transforming Madagascar hissing roaches into helpful cyborgs for the past decade. What I mean to say is that you have just been rescued by his cyborg insects under Operation Lionheart. And you probably have a lot of questions like, are you serious? And how? Yeah, I am very much serious. This was a real rescue team utilized during the tragedy. And I'm about to tell you about cyborg insects, which sounds kind of scary. Instead, think of them as remote-controlled insects, which is also uncomfortable. Moving on. As reported by Rachel Newer of Popular Science, researchers begin by anesthetizing the insect, say our roaches here, and glue a 3D printed mount onto the insect's back. This backpack of sorts carries electronic components, including a circuit board that acts as a mini controller. Wires from that controller have electrodes at their end, which are glued onto the bug's neurons that guide their motor function. Quote, by zapping those neurons, researchers can control the cyborg's movements. Zap the right side and the bug goes left. Zap the left and it goes right. End quote. As to how we know where the roach is relative to space and if it finds a warm human body, the roaches under Operation Lionheart were fitted with infrared cameras, geolocators, and sensors. The information obtained was then processed by a machine learning algorithm, which worked out if there were survivors among the rubble. Now, cyborg insects aren't mindless. They still maintain and control all of their cognition, and fundamentally, they decide which direction to take. However, when researchers notice they are veering way off course, or if they're moving away from a heat signal, they could be nudged back towards what could be a person. There's other perks to a cyborg bug as well. And so wonderfully summed up by Mac de Gruen of PopSci, by working with the animal's natural biology, a cyborg bug requires far less computing power to operate, since it's not powering the motors and actuators needed for a robot. A cyborg also doesn't need to carry around a large battery, which could similarly get in the way during a rescue operation, end quote. In other words, rather than spending time and money replicating 300 million years of evolution and what a bug is capable of, thanks to their anatomy, why not just join forces with it, using the occasional remote control? If you drop whatever creature you're holding right now and pick up your phone to tap on today's post, you will see a cyborg roach outfitted by Osaka University roboticist Kaisuke Morishima, who is not involved in the diving suit study that we're about to fit into shortly. In their 2023 study, the technology, quote, successfully increased the roach's search rate and travel distance up to 68% and 70% respectively, while the stop time was reduced by 78%. This is all so impressive that you might be thinking, wow, how can any of this be improved upon? Well, the good news just doesn't stop coming from here. So, join me, will you, back with Professor Hirotaka Sato at NTU Singapore, along with Ma Met Thi Chit, research engineer, Fan Zifu, project officer, Dr. Tan Ngoc Phuoc Thang, I'm sure I said that perfectly, research fellow, and a handful of additional nerds hot for roach cyborgs. If you still have today's post before your beautiful eyes, please swipe past the photo of the dolled-up insect that we just spoke about, and you will see this A-team beaming from ear to ear. And best of all, in the right hand of Professor Sato, you'll find the star of our show, and a future hero in the making. My two-legged business goose, as so aptly stated in the team's June press release, cyborg insects in search and rescue missions, especially in disaster zones with flooded rubble, puddles, or partially submerged spaces, they face a problem conventional cyborgs just can't get around. Cyborg insects still depend on their natural respiratory system, which is composed of a series of holes. Yeah, you heard me. It all comes down to holes, and they're causing a bit of a problem when it comes to advancing what cyborgs can do and where they can go. Quote, roaches breathe through small hole openings called spiracles, which allow air to enter the tracheal system for gas exchange. When submerged, they cannot take in oxygen from water. End quote, from the release. So yeah, that's a fancy way of saying, girl, they ain't got lungs and face holes like we do. Instead, they have a series of holes along the sides of their bodies, mainlining oxygen to a network of tiny tubes that branch directly into the insect cells. If these holes are covered up by the scantest amount of water and the insect can't escape, it's game over for the roach and the person they're attempting to save. This team looked at the problem and looked at the roach and said, hell, there's no problem here at all. We can build them a diving suit. And so they did. And I have to say, it looks like something right out of a Ridley Scott film. Swipe past the gang's selfie, and you'll see a Madagascar hissing roach decked out in the sexiest diving suit I've ever seen. I'm serious, and I'll give you a second. Okay, if by some chance you're diving right now yourself and you're too busy to take a look, imagine a roach whose nether regions are wearing opaque plastic underwear. Yeah, and from that underwear are 4 tubes connected to the sides of its body. Now, I know that's not a sexy description, but it's effective. And speaking of effectiveness, I need to tell you how this works and how well it works. Quote, our approach combines a soft, waterproof shell with a simple yet reliable chemical oxygen generator. This allows the insect to retain its natural mobility while being protected from an environment that it cannot normally survive in. The underwater suit consists of 3 parts: an oxygen generation tank, which is inside the underwear, by the way, a flexible shell, which is the underwear itself, and 4 silicone oxygen supply tubes. Together, they form a compact, self-contained system that keeps water out while delivering oxygen directly to the cockroach's spiracles. The oxygen generation tank was 3D printed using PMMA-type resin, a transparent, plastic-like material. Inside the tank, the researchers placed a sponge deposited with manganese dioxide. To start the oxygen supply, the team injected a small amount of diluted hydrogen peroxide. The manganese dioxide slowly breaks down the hydrogen peroxide and releases oxygen. The oxygen is then channeled through the flexible shell and silicone tubes to the cockroach's spiracles, allowing it to breathe underwater. The tubes are attached to the insect's thoracic spiracles and can be removed later without pain or harm, end quote, the researchers said. Yeah, my land-dwelling friends, by using a simple chemical reaction, the team has created an ingenious solution allowing roaches to breathe underwater, which, to everyone's surprise, is a great thing in this context, and probably only this context. That underwear is a mere 10 by 10 millimeters, or the size of a small piece of gum. And as reported by the team's study, revealingly titled Underwater Suit-Wearing Cyborg Insect Capable of Hours-Long Diving and Terra Aqua Travel, it fucking works. Quote, to assess the long-term waterproof performance of the diving suit under realistic operational conditions, a cyborg cockroach wearing the suit was completely immersed in water for 30 minutes. To detect any possible water ingress, or aka leakage, water-sensitive test paper that turns blue upon contact with moisture was placed inside the suit. For the underwater locomotion test, locomotion experiments were performed in a 50 by 50 centimeter water tank. Control commands were transmitted from a computer through a central control unit, and forward speed and angular speeds for left and right turns were calculated. The insects were tasked with moving underwater through a stone passage only 2 centimeters in height, simulating a constricted gap. Their underwater motion was continuously recorded using an HD webcam, end quote, from the study. So, did the suit leak? Was the creature able to waddle through a few inches of water? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. Great news. No leaks. Yeah, I know. Exciting. And even better news. The cyborgs were able to successfully travel over every hazardous obstacle faced. And they did so at speeds only slightly slower than it would above ground. And the roach's survival time in those underwater settings extended from just a few minutes without the suit to up to 3 hours with the suit. Yeah, I will say that again. 3 hours. Now, this is a massive step towards executing aquatic search and rescues, but there is still much to do. These experiments only took place in a few inches of water, so going forward, future studies need to simulate more real-world situations. And being from New York, and let's say having interacted with many a roach, I can tell you, I have no doubt they'll do fine. After the break, we are leaving heroic bugs in Singapore for 11 caves around Spain and Portugal but we are sticking with innovations so revolutionary that they will no doubt make a positive impact. Quote, "It's the start of a new era. This gives us the potential to meet the actual artists, the individuals who did this art. It's extraordinary," end quote, said study co-author Genevieve von Petzinger, a paleoanthropologist at the University of Witwatersrand, to New Scientist's Alison George. My friends, we are one step closer to revealing who exactly made some of the most famous cave art in our glorious world. You need to hear this next.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
¿Escuchan eso? Es el delicioso encuentro entre un Extra Crispy McCrispy Strip y la cremosa salsa César. Si así suena, solo imagínate cómo sabe. Salsa César, en McDonald's por tiempo limitado. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, please channel your inner doodler and bust out your finest scalpel, because we're about to join forces with an extremely ambitious group of nerds who want to answer a question that has been left without closure for tens of thousands of years. Who exactly is behind some of the oldest, most breathtaking cave art in the world? For you see, my equally talented business goose, as of 5 minutes ago, most DNA analysis has been performed on archaeological floor deposits, such as bones, sediments, and artifacts like tools and figurines. However, objects found on a floor aren't necessarily related to who created the painted images of wild animals, patterns, shapes, and handprints adorning the walls. One thing we do know about these paintings is how they were made. Most of the motifs were created with red ochre, or iron oxide, and this material was either put into the mouth of the artist and blown out, or by rubbing the pigment directly onto the surface. Both of these methods would leave behind a treasure trove of DNA. That is, if it has survived time and the elements. And this international team that we have just joined, they are crazy enough to try and find some. It is my honor to introduce you to the folks over at The First Art Project, which is led by researchers from Spain and Portugal in collaboration with institutions from across Spain, Portugal, the UK, China, and Germany. The roll call is just too long to list everyone involved in this behemoth of an undertaking, but there's Genevieve von Petzinger at the University of Witwatersrand, or Johannesburg, South Africa, who we met before. There's Alba Bossoms Messe at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Litzbing, Germany. Hipólito Collado Giraldo, an archaeologist at the regional government of Extremo in Spain, and there's approximately 35 additional co-authors of the study we are about to uncover ourselves, and I am not going to attempt any more names in this episode. I'm breaking out in a sweat. Now, according to their press release, the goal of the First Art Project is to date the earliest cave art and to characterize its chemical composition. And holy shit, they are not fucking around. So join me, will you, with the team as they painstakingly explored 11 caves containing rock art in Spain and Portugal between 2022 and 2025, including the Altamira and Esquirol caves, Maltravieso, Coravan, Cudan, and Les Pedroses caves. Ooh, and for my fellow geographically challenged Americans who are like, what are these words? They mean nothing to me. And can you show me where they are exactly? Absolutely, I've got you. If you drop whatever bones you're holding right now and pick up your phone to check out today's post over at the socials, you'll find a handy-dandy map with each of these caves' locations and a color-coded explanation of what kind of samples were taken and from where. Speaking of which, let's get into it. As reported in the team's study, revealingly titled Investigating Ancient Human DNA Preservation on Cave Walls and Rock Art, quote, different types of pigment samples were utilized in this study and selected based on site-specific circumstances and opportunities. Most samples were collected with scalpels, targeting pigment-containing calcite nodules or crusts. At Tebelen, Spain, 3 samples were taken from a natural fissure inside a large claviform motif. At Maltravieso, samples were collected using a dentistry drill, and sterile swabs. At Carovan, 4 pigment-containing mineral flakes were collected from the ground beneath 2 figures. Finally, at Altamira, 5 pigment-containing flakes were recovered from a fabric placed under the polychrome ceiling to collect material naturally washed away by dripping water, and a pigment sample was collected from one of the funnels used to measure that dripping water. In total, 54 samples were collected from 24 rock art panels." End quote. And if you want a visual representation of all of this, the team created a collage of photos, so you're in luck. They're over at the socials as well. There's a lot of poking with scalpels and close-ups of paint, so it's all very exciting. In addition to all the pigmented samples, a control group of samples was also harvested from unpigmented wall crusts, which, as I'm about to report, turn out to be delicious. So, after the samples were first subjected to an initial extraction, then homogenized into finer powder and then re-extracted, whereupon the extracts were converted into single-stranded libraries and enriched for hominin mitochondrial DNA using a hybridization capture. What did the team find? Drumroll, please. Thank you again in the back. If you're not sitting, please, cop a squat. And I don't care where you do it. You need to sit for this. Quote, "Of the samples collected, only 5 yielded authentic ancient human mitochondrial DNA. A calcite crust with pigment underneath from panel 11 at Escorial Cave, 2 unpigmented cave wall samples from a deeper gallery, also from the same site, and 2 unpigmented samples adjacent to rock art in Coveron." End quote. Y'all, they found DNA on these cave walls, which confirms DNA on cave walls can survive millennia. So, whose is it? And how old are these findings? Great questions. Let's start off with some great news. 2 of the samples showed no detectable faunal mitochondrial DNA, which is a fancy way of saying, girl, this DNA wasn't brought in by animals or washed in by a storm. This strongly suggests that the DNA was deposited directly by humans through saliva, sweat, or other bodily fluids, and the team touched it. Fun. The other 3 unpigmented wall samples contained both human and faunal DNA, suggesting an indirect deposit, but it still revealed DNA, so take this as a win. It could still tell us a story. A story that goes a little something like this. The human DNA of 3 of these samples comes mostly from females, 1 mostly from males, and 1 remains undetermined. Their nuclear DNA placed them within a Western hunter-gatherer genetic cluster, which is consistent with previous results from DNA taken off floor objects. These folks also belong to ancient Iberian populations from around 5,200 to 17,000 years ago. But here's the not-so-great news. One of those samples was undetermined, right? And that's quite a large gap in years. We can't get specific because there wasn't enough DNA to complete the entire picture. No pun intended. As reported by New Scientist, there was not enough DNA recovered to carry out an exact dating. But we do know that the Escorial Cave was sealed off between 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. So this DNA is probably older than that. And although the researchers caution that the DNA from the people found here may or may not be the artists, this is a gigantic step forward into solving who made the first masterpieces. As so whimsically stated by Francesco de Arrico at the University of Bordeaux in France, who was not involved in the study, quote, "Were the artists men or women or both? Were animal drawings from the same panel made by a single artist? Can we find Neanderthal DNA in the very old paintings in the Iberian Peninsula, or Denisovian DNA in the hand stencils found in Indonesia? The potential is huge." End quote. This was said to Alison George of New Scientist. Indeed, Francesco, we shall soon find out, and you know what? With 3 of the 5 being female, I'm just going to put it out there. maybe the stereotype of the caveman artist is way off. So watch this space, and thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, telling your friends about how roaches can survive in water. But it's for a good thing. It's totally good. It just, open the conversation with it. This is a good thing. You know what I mean? And then tell them about how we're going to find out who did these paintings. It's so exciting. And a colorful thanks. I lost my voice to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you'll love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.